All right. Welcome, y'all. Last week we didn't have any seats left. Today we have a few. Rachel was wondering if I needed to get waivers signed for the video, and because if you're concerned about the back of your head or something like that, then maybe. So let me know if you would like to sign a waiver, and I'll be happy to do that.
It's on the video. You just blur us out.
You just need to know.
What's?
You just need to let me know if I'm famous. That's all.
Yeah.
Just keep your gloves on. Maybe make some appearance.
Speaking engagements.
I really appreciated the sermon this morning because I really felt like it kind of goes in conjunction with the topic that we're talking about, especially today. In the responsibility of us as Christians to take care of other people, to look out for those that are in need, and to be that person to do that. Which, speaking of, if you haven't seen the movie, or if you have, there's a movie we just watched the other night that we rented at the home, Sound of Hope. Has anybody seen that? It's fantastic. Really, really good. It's a what was it called? What was the church called?
Well, I don't remember the name of the church.
Yeah.
It's in Possum Trot.
Possum Trot, yeah.
I think it was Bennett Church, but
And it's like I think it's a Baptist church, but it's about adoption and the process of adoption. And if you didn't know, I come from a family that I have 3 adopted siblings, and so it had a little bit of a lot of the things that they did not sugarcoat adoption, which was a pleasant surprise because I lived through some of that kind of stuff. So it was very, very good, very well done. I highly recommend it. Speaking of people in need, this is just one of hundreds and thousands of images that you could pull from the hurricane disaster that's happened in western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, parts of Georgia. It's awful. It's truly awful. In fact, I know it's hard to see, but up on top of those power lines, you can actually see like tree debris, which just tells you how high and how devastating that water got. And they are still to this day people that are stranded, that have no access to get out because the roads are completely gone. Just another picture of the devastation that took place from the flooding there. I could have put 100 pictures in here. You guys have probably been watching it on social media, following a little bit. It's truly devastating.
Brother lives in Hendersonville, North Carolina.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Have you heard like direct word from any devastation there?
Oh yeah. Fortunately, their house is still standing. They had some roof leakage, but they were able to find a hotel that had running water and power. And my sister-in-law was in the lobby, and this elderly lady came in there, and she's very upset and desperate for a room. And she's like, and she kept saying how she had to leave her husband behind because he was wheelchair bound. So she, I think he was 80 years old, and the water was just flowing in, and he told her to go. And she made it to the top of the roof, and a helicopter found her. And it was probably 2 minutes later, the house was completely gone.
Wow.
But she was on that roof knowing that right below her husband is drowning. But Chimney Rock, a smaller area of Hendersonville, completely underwater. I think parts of Hendersonville is slowly starting to get power. But yeah, it's about 1,000 people are still unaccounted for. Cell service and internet.
And the official death toll at this point is like 250-ish, something like that. But they have said that they expected to rise. They're just literally trying to identify people.
Well, I've seen something on social media. I've got the video of it, and this girl's talking about I don't know where a reefer truck is, that she's seen 4 big reefer trucks and they're filled with bodies. Now, I don't know.
Refrigerated truck. Yeah, that's.
I don't know if that's true or not, but
You do need to be careful because there's a lot of stuff that can get passed, but I've seen enough from a lot of credible sources that this is truly devastating.
So do you think that's false?
No.
About the reefer trucks?
No, I have no idea.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Oh, no. I wasn't trying to insinuate.
I'm curious if it's real.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea.
But my
I
brother-
don't doubt it. Like, there's no reason that I would doubt it on the surface. But
But my brother said life lesson is to always make sure you have at least $400 or $500 cash just somewhere stashed in your house, because the first 3 days you had to have cash because there was no internet.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, they were like scraping quarters and dollars just to buy anything.
Yeah.
So.
So we do have a federal agency, and this is going to lead into today's discussion. So I'm not going way off topic, but I am using this as a guide into the discussion. So FEMA, I took this screenshot. I know it's especially from back there, you're not going to be able to read everything, but the point of this was FEMA has been taking a lot of criticism from a lot of local people, and even if people that are close to people over there probably have heard some of this criticism, they're not responding fast enough. They're just at, like, a week later starting to arrive with some stuff, and it's been kind of a disaster in and of itself of their efforts. And people are trying to get in and help, and they're being blocked by FEMA, et cetera, et cetera. I've personally seen actual video of FEMA personnel telling people they can't do it. It's very unfortunate. So you think, okay, well, what is FEMA's job? Like, if you, not looking at anything, if I just said to you, what's FEMA's job?
Helping disasters.
To help in disasters. That's it. It's emergency response. Like, that's the job of FEMA. And so, but you go to their website and you look at their goals, and we're going to talk about this, and now you're going to see where this is going to bring in. This is their 2022 to 2026 strategic plan for FEMA. Okay, so you would think that one of the first things they would say is our number one job and our number one goal is to be responsive to those that are in need in a disaster. Like, that's the whole purpose of the department to begin with. Well, let's look at their number one goal. This is FEMA's number one goal, is to instill equity as a foundation of emergency management. And then they break it into 3 subpoints. 1.1, cultivate a FEMA that prioritizes and harnesses a diverse workforce. Remove barriers to FEMA programs through a people-first approach. And 1.3, achieve equitable outcomes for those we serve. All right, what does all this mean? So we're going to go through this a little bit because I want you to see the language that they use. This is the agency that is supposed to be in North Carolina right now helping people, and they should have been there the day it happened. That's how mobilized they should have been. Disasters impact people and communities differently. Every disaster occurs within a unique context based on a community's geographic, demographic, political, historical, and cultural characteristics. I thought they just happened in places that they happen, and you just need to be there. Like, I didn't realize that they had to add all this into it, because you don't know when or where these things may or may not. Nobody expected this hurricane to impact North Carolina the way that it did, which is fair. Nobody expected that. I totally get it. It happened. Now you got to go and you have to respond. But that's not the way that they present this. These unique contexts require tailored solutions that are designed to meet their unique needs. Underserved communities, as well as specific identity groups, often suffer disproportionately from disasters. As a result, disasters worsen inequities already present in society. I mean, if you're starting to make the connections to what we've already been talking about in here, this collectivist idea, this collectivism, it's a different operating system. This is what they're working from.
In other words, they pick and choose who they want to help.
They prioritize those that may be already marginalized by society. That's the way that they would perceive it. Instead of just helping people because they're people and you see them, they need help. The nation needs all communities to be resilient, proactively prioritizing actions that advance equity for communities and identifying groups that have historically been underserved or disproportionately affected by disasters is critical for their resilience. Through the objectives outlined or identified below, FEMA will continue its efforts to integrate equity as a foundation of its culture through transformational change within our workforce, across our programs, and throughout the emergency management community. This is very interesting. I want you to pay close attention to this, and I apologize if the text is a little small, but I had to get this all on one slide. Executive Order 13985, January 20th, 2021. Who signs executive orders? The President. What is the significance of January 20th, 2021? First day. That was the day he was inaugurated. It defines equity. Now catch this. The consistent and systematic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals. Nothing wrong with that. Including individuals who belong to underserved communities that have been denied such treatment, such as Black, Latino, and Indigenous and Native American persons, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and other persons of color, members of religious minorities. By the way, that's not us. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer, LGBTQ+ persons, persons with disabilities, persons who live in rural areas, and persons otherwise adversely affected by persistent poverty or inequality. Additionally, underserved communities refers to populations sharing a particular characteristic, as well as geographic communities that have been systematically denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of economical, social, and civil life. FEMA is better able to serve the needs of diverse communities when its leadership and staff reflect the communities it serves. Diversity, equity, and inclusion cannot be optional. That's key. It cannot be optional. They must be core components to how the agency conducts itself internally and executes its mission. This is just more, they need to promote more equity. I don't want to take all of our time just reading through this. I did put several in here. Okay, last one. On its own, however, the approach is not sufficient to break the cycles of disaster, worsening societal inequities, and exposing underserved communities to increased risk. There are systemic differences in society that access alone cannot fix. However, by intentionally directing resources to communities most in need, FEMA will be able to counteract systemic disaster inequities. Systemic disaster inequities. I don't even know what that means. Like, it's such word salad. I literally don't even know what they're trying to say. I mean, I do know what they're saying, but I don't know what that means. It just makes no sense to me.
These hurricanes are racist.
Yeah. I mean, it almost comes across that way. You go back to Garrett's lesson today. Like, what is our job to do? Help people. I don't care if you're a billionaire, if you're standing on a roof and there's water coming in, you might be a billionaire, but you still need help. Someone's got to have to rescue you. Like, it does not matter. We're not supposed to show partiality. That is the Christian message. That is who we are as individuals. That is what Christ has called us to do. This sounds very different to what Christ has called us to do. So for the next couple of weeks, I thought you were going to raise your hand. For the next couple of weeks, we are going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're going to dig into it. I'm going to actually get into some history. You're going to learn about some old philosophers that you never thought would have impacted your life, but turns out they have high impact on your life today, and you didn't even know about them. And I didn't know about them a few years ago, and now I do, and it's just like really eye-opening. So we're going to get into some of these people. So it's going to take a few weeks to kind of unpack everything. Pulled this slide from the internet. It just is one of the, there's a million of them. When I say it's everywhere, I mean it's everywhere. It's in our workplace. It's in our culture. It's in our laws. I'll give you a quick example. The company I work for, it's a husband and wife, and if you know, I'm just going to be honest, the husband, it's his dad who started the company. He inherited it when his dad died, and he's been running it ever since. It's his company. Well, they started to find out that there are what they call, what do they call them? Basically, it's DEI, and whenever there's construction projects, there's a requirement that you have to have X% of minorities or women. So what they did is they reorganized the company so she is 51% owner. And now we are a certified women-owned company, which allows us to go and bid on projects, and we get preferential treatment because of that fact. Titan Stadium has a 30% diversity initiative. Means 30% of the Titan Stadium that they're building right now has to be built by people of color or women. So when I say it's in our laws, it's in the way that we structure our, the way that we build things, the way that we just do everything. It's built into everything. So that's what I mean when I say DEI is everywhere. So is there current opposition to DEI? Well, I'll tell you, in addition to what I'm doing, a small part, there is a significant opposition right now to DEI. And it's actually starting to win. And I'm very, very happy about this. Robbie Starbuck. Anybody who's familiar with Robbie Starbuck? A few of you? Okay. He is from Hollywood, former Hollywood producer. He now lives in Franklin, Tennessee, and he moved here a few years ago. He actually ran for Congress, and then the Republican ticket kicked him off because he didn't live here long enough. So he's like an activist, if you will. He lives here in Franklin, like I said. He started a campaign over the summer, and he has gone after these companies that you see here. The first one that he went after was Tractor Supply Company. And when I say went after, what he did is he gained documents from internal training of their employees, and he exposed them on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and showed people what they're doing. And it took Tractor Supply, I think, like 2 weeks or so, and they finally responded, and they said, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. Sorry about that. In fact, I'll read part of what Tractor Supply did. This is not the entire statement. You can go read the entire thing. I just pulled out some small bits. So this is their statement from June 27th of this year. Going forward, we will ensure our activities and giving tied directly to our businesses. For instance, this means no longer submit data to the Human Rights Campaign, refocus our team members' engagement groups on mentoring, networking, and supporting the business. The member engagement groups, this is a HR type thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Further focus on rural America priorities, including ag education, animal welfare, veteran causes, and being a good neighbor, and stop sponsoring non-business activities like pride festivals and voting campaigns. Eliminate DEI roles and retire our current DEI goals while still ensuring a respectful environment. Withdraw our carbon emission goals and focus on our land and water conservation efforts. This was a very, very strong 180 that Tractor Supply did because they started to realize that their customers were not on board with this. And just this last week, he got Toyota. I'm not going to read the article, but you can see the headline. Toyota's latest is the latest to scrap its DEI policy, is giving anti-woke activists another win. And the other companies, Harley Davidson, Lowe's, they were all part of this. And I think Lowe's, Robbie never even got to put anything out on the internet. They found out that he was going to, and they put out their statement before he put anything out. And so he said, I'm not going to put anything out because they went ahead and just reversed on their own without me having to do anything.
I think he told them that he was going to,
Right.
and they took action before him. Because
Right.
he lets them know, I'm doing this.
So why are companies doing this?
Because they realize they're catering to the minority and pushing away the majority. They are catering to such a small group, and even though they're mass consumers,
Yep.
don't feel that way.
Now, I would probably say that in most of these cases, these people look at this from a financial perspective. That's okay. I'm still good with it. I would like it to be because they had to, come to their senses moment, and they said, "Oh, this is something we ought not to be doing." So, Human Rights Campaign. I could guarantee every one of you knows who the Human Rights Campaign is without knowing who they are. Have you seen the sticker on the back of cars? It's blue with the equal sign in yellow. Have you all seen that? I said that. I think it was my dad. I was telling him. He's like, "Oh, I thought that was some military thing," and I was like, "No, Dad, no, that's not a military thing." That is the logo for the Human Rights Campaign. The equal was originally used to promote homosexual marriage. Their equal was that was the whole thing behind it. So how did they respond? Human Rights Campaign didn't take this very well. They're not happy right now. So if you go to their website, this is a screen grab from their website. So I know it's hard to read, but demand corporate America protect their workers. This isn't just policy; it's personal. And in the text there, if you can read it, some American businesses have recently turned their backs on LGBTQ plus people of color, women, and the disability community by ditching their long-standing commitments to best practices in the workplace, diversity, and inclusion. Do y'all notice what's the one thing that's left out of every single one of those statements? Always, without exception, left out. White men who aren't gay, I guess. Straight. Now, there's a button there that says take action now. They actually made it personal. If you click that button, this is what you get. Tell corporate America Robbie Starbuck is an extremist troll. Dropping inclusivity initiatives is not okay. And so you're supposed to sign this petition. You guys can go sign it if you want. My point in showing this to you is it is everywhere. And there, in the past year-ish, has been some real traction against this in a very positive way. And I'm hoping it continues. There is a warning that goes with it, though, because they're just going to change the wording of it. They've been doing this forever. They just continue to update the language they use, the words that they use, and they're always going to use words that are going to sound very nice. The latest word that they start using is the word belonging. Belonging is a new one that they start using instead of inclusion. Okay, questions about DEI. Where does it come from? Why is it controversial? What does it teach? And is it biblical? Those are all fair questions, right? Matthew 25. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. And I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer to him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and gave you drink? And when did we see you as a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did you see the sick in prison and visit you? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer to them, truly I say to you, as you did to one of the least of my brothers, you did it to me. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love continues over a multitude of sins, showing hospitality to one another without grumbling. This is, by the way, not Matthew 25. That I just forgot to update it. My apologies. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks as one who speaks oracles of God, whoever serves as one who serves by the strength of God's supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. Okay, is it biblical? We have colleges and universities around us that are associated with our church. I went to Harding University. That's where I met Rachel. That's where we went. We have Lipscomb, even represented. We have Abilene down in Texas. So, does this exist in our colleges and universities? Yes, it does. Lipscomb has their diversity, belonging, and unity. Remember, I said belonging is being used in place of it. Why? Because it's softer language. It actually means something, in my opinion, much more sinister. I don't think people realize it though, and so they just make this like, well, I want to belong. Who doesn't want to belong? I want everybody to feel like they belong. We're going to get into that and talk about why that may not be the way that they want to use it. Diversity officers. Do our Christian colleges have diversity officers? Yes, they do. Is he still there, Dale? Oh, is he still there? Is he still at Lipscomb?
Is he?
You and I were classmates at ACU.
You were classmates with him? But these are actual positions that they hire for. So notice that they changed. If I go back a slide, this is called diversity, belonging, and unity. Okay, sounds a lot softer. But his title, if you can read it, I know it's small on the screen. He is the special counsel to the president for equity, diversity, and inclusion. So they didn't change the name of the thing on the title, just the way that they promote the program. Abilene Christian, Office of Intercultural Engagement and Belonging. They changed the wording around a little bit, right? It's the same thing because they also have Anthony Williams as the Chief Diversity Officer. So it's at Abilene. My own college, Harding, Diversity Services. Once again, I'm doing screenshots, so I apologize because I know this is not very large, but they even bring in create a climate of justice to encourage access and equity at Harding and offer other programs to educate the campus about diversity. So they're using all the same words, they just rearrange them inside of a paragraph.
Did you check the Freed-Hardeman? Did they do that?
Freed-Hardeman, to its credit, was a little more challenging for me, to its credit, but I'm sorry to tell you, they were celebrating Black History Month. They have this Bridges program, which I guess, and by David Shannon, by the way, I know David Shannon. Not like super well, but I have met him and we've met before and spoke, and he spoke here at the congregation, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. I don't know if you remember, those of you who've been here a while, when he spoke here. But the Bridges is an acronym for Belonging to the FHU Community, Reinforcing God's Love for All, Integrating an Inclusive Learning Environment, Developing a Kingdom Culture, Growing Together, Embracing Diversity, and Strengthening Our Communities. FHU President David R. Shannon discusses Bridges and the combined efforts of FHU Cultural Diversity Committee. The point team for the university's Strategic Bridge Plan 3.1 seeks to increase understanding of racial diversity and unity and other to better reflect the kingdom. We will be a family in pursuit of peace through genuine godly love and not be afraid of the tension that may be created while doing that, Shannon said. We will listen and learn and love. This is where I need to say, I said this last week, there are some very, very well-intentioned people that are being duped. I am not saying all of these people are evil. I'm not saying that at all. The ideology behind these things, I am saying that. But these people are very well-intentioned. There's a lot of good people that it just sounds good to them, and they're not really into all the whys. And so this is why I'm doing this class, is to kind of open our eyes. Oh, when you say these things, that's not what you actually mean. There's actually an undercurrent. There's actually something else, another motive that you have behind it.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Funny that you should bring this up because Isabel is in the nursing program at Harding. And she called Cassie this week just so upset because on Friday, not this past Friday, but the week before, they made the nursing students go to a conference on DEI. They had to miss all their classes that day, and they still gave them work. But they forced them to go to that convention. And she was so upset by it.
Okay. I happen to know a little bit about how the medical training field is working. And that is very likely due to the fact that to get into any other school beyond or to get a job, that has to be part of your resume going forward.
No matter what college you're from.
Because the hospitals, that's what they're looking for. We haven't even started talking about medical yet, but that's what the hospitals are looking for when they're hiring. And so if they're basically saying if you don't have this on your resume, you're not going to be put at the front of the line. So that's the why behind it. And, there's a whole lot. I could really go deep on that as well some other time, but.
I mean, I'm a surge tech, and every year, and part of our CEUs that we're required to do in order to have like an evaluation and to get a raise and to continue to work there, I have 3 or 4 of those that I have to do. Thankfully, I work in a place where somebody just does it and takes out all the answers, and we all just answer them. So it's kind of like, but it's just. I mean,
I'll strike that from the record as well.
The sad thing is that people who aren't qualified are getting jobs, and the quality of like medical, even pilots that are going down. Sometimes I'm scared to fly because I don't know who the pilot is. Are they qualified, or are they just hiring him because of the diversity thing? It's everybody has their own things. I can't be a pilot. I can, I've got Native American in me. Can I go and say I would like to be a pilot because I'm part Native American?
You can now.
Probably.
Delta Airlines, I'm pretty sure, is looking for you.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what's scary is because people are doing jobs they shouldn't be doing because they really don't know what they're doing.
Yep. And that's the
Well,
consequence.
that's not the important part. This whole thing is changing around priorities.
Yeah.
To the point where the priority at the top of the list, as you can see from FEMA's mission statement, is equity, not do your job as an emergency amelioration part of our tax structure.
Yeah. And if I'm going to rant, go ahead.
It's cart before the horse in the worst possible way you can imagine.
Yeah.
And they lose the plot. It's like, did you do a good job as a doctor? Well, it doesn't matter as long as you did it in an equitable fashion.
Right.
That's backwards, completely backwards.
And if I'm going to rant for a second, off script a little bit, what does that tell society and specifically our young people? The idea that is what is priority. What does that tell them?
You don't have to work hard on doing anything.
Okay, part of it is you don't have to work hard, but
Some of it's predetermined, like if you're white and want to get something, now you are no longer able to, but if you are classified as one of those things, you can automatically get that thing.
Yeah. Which can be one of two things. You could be told inherently that you don't deserve it, or you can't earn it, therefore we have to give it to you, which would be the alternative, right? I don't want my kids taught that. I think anybody wants their kids taught that. I think some people might, but. Okay, today we're going to finish with this. This shouldn't take long. Before we dig deep, we have to understand how they got here. We're going to talk today, the rest of this time, about intersectionality. Is this a term that's new to anybody? You guys have heard a little bit? Intersectionality. Okay, where does it come from? 1989. It was a paper written by this lady, Kimberly Crenshaw. She's a self-ascribed Marxist. Kimberly Crenshaw wrote this, and then
many years ago, I began to use the term intersectionality to deal with the fact that many of our social justice problems like racism and sexism are often overlapping, creating multiple levels of social injustice. Now, the experience that gave rise to intersectionality was my chance encounter with a woman named Emma DeGraffenreid. Emma DeGraffenreid was an African-American woman, a working wife, and a mother. I actually read about Emma's story from the pages of a legal opinion written by a judge who had dismissed Emma's claim of race and gender discrimination against a local car manufacturing plant. But she applied for a job, and she was not hired, and she believed that she was not hired because she was a black woman. Now, the judge in question dismissed Emma's suit. And the argument for dismissing the suit was that the employer did hire African Americans, and the employer hired women. The real problem, though, that the judge was not willing to acknowledge was what Emma was actually trying to say. That the African Americans that were hired, usually for industrial jobs, maintenance jobs, were all men. And the women that were hired, usually for secretarial or front office work, were all white. Only if the court was able to see how these policies came together would he be able to see the double discrimination that Emma DeGraffenreid was facing. So it occurred to me, maybe a simple analogy to an intersection might allow judges to better see Emma's dilemma. Now, because Emma was both black and female, she was positioned precisely where those roads overlapped, experiencing the simultaneous impact of the company's gender and race traffic. So, what do you call being impacted by multiple forces and then abandoned to fend for yourself? Intersectionality seemed to do it for me. I would go on to learn that African American women, like other women of color, like other socially marginalized people all over the world, were facing all kinds of dilemmas and challenges as a consequence of intersectionality, intersections of race and gender, of heterosexism, transphobia, xenophobia, ableism. All of these social dynamics come together and create challenges that are sometimes quite unique.
So you heard it from, what do they say, the horse's mouth, right? Like that, she's literally the one that came up with the term. So how do we use this? So I don't know if you noticed this. Kimberly Crenshaw started because she was upset that we weren't assigning the fact that she was black and female together to create a new identity that was different than being just black or being just a woman, right? So this was her problem, and that's what she called intersectionality. But you notice that she said, I would go on to learn. And then she included this slide, which I took a screen grab of. So here's what's really interesting. Kimberly Crenshaw never wanted this. She had an unintended consequence of her own ideology. And all of a sudden, others wanted in on this game. But Kimberly Crenshaw actually is very hesitant to talk about this. Because what ends up happening is no longer can the black female, according to her, get that true advantage, because now we have all sorts of other ways that you could get that same advantage. So Kimberly Crenshaw isn't super pleased with her I went on to learn statement. She had to say it because there's no way for her not to get to go there. So then this is one of the things that appears. So this is going to be some of the different ways that you could be intersectional. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you can see language, ability, sexual orientation, hobbies, education, religion, age. So there's ageism, right? Young people have an advantage over old people. Mental health, appearance. Some people are better looking than others. What are we to do about all that? Well, here's what they did with it.
Have mercy.
Okay, hard to read, I know. But if you can see around the edge, you have all these different things. And you can see what's in the middle. What's in the middle? Power. Okay, so white, post-secondary educated, able-bodied, heterosexual, neurotypical, robust, slim, property owner, rich, speaks English, cisgender. We're going to get to that cisgender stuff. Don't use the word cis. You're just either a man or a woman. Citizen, those are the people with power. Did you see how they did that? And who's marginalized? Poor, homeless, large, vulnerable, significant neurodivergence.
This is like the new math. 1 plus 1 is not 2 anymore.
Yeah. If you want to laugh, Matt Walsh does a episode of his show, I think it's on YouTube, where he assigns points to different things and he starts to create and it's really funny.
So wait, so they even still divide the LGBTQ,
Oh, absolutely.
ABCD, whatever community?
Yeah.
So now they're saying gay men have more than lesbians.
Yeah, because it's straightforward.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago, we talked about how trans and LGBTQ don't really even get along. They act like they do, and they put their stuff together,
I
but
just think it's funny they want equality, but it's
yeah.
they're dividing themselves.
Yeah, you got to get certain points. So the more points you collect, the better you are, right? This is another one, a little bit easier to read. It doesn't have the power in the center, but it's still the idea of more power, less power. What would be another way of phrasing that? Evil and good. Like they are trying to assign a uh, capacity to more power or less power. And so one of the ones that wasn't on the other one, but is on this one. Look, if you don't think that this is not an anti-Christian movement and ideology, this is exactly what this is. So these are fun.
Well, in the end, I was taught to treat everyone the same. I mean, I went to a school that had a lot of black people. I never treated them any different than I did anybody else.
Did you know what they will say about that?
But I said black people.
No. Okay, your inability to see what others want them to see or want you to see of them is actually your version of white supremacy.
I always say it's not the person, it's the character. It's not what color. You can be purple with pink dots. I don't care. But if you're a terrible person, it's your character that
yes.
I am after. I mean, we have. I was in band, and the first two flute. First and second were black guys, and they were totally qualified for that position.
Yeah.
They didn't get. I got third. So I mean, but I treated everyone the same, and it just
you're speaking
incredible to me that my mind is just. I need some duct tape.
Yeah.
And my head's gonna explode.
I promised not to bring this back up, but I did want to bring this up because I'm going to go very, very all the way down to the bottom there in the. It's part of a book here of what is white supremacy. White supremacy is a historically based, institutionally perpetuated system of exploitation and oppression of continents, nations, and peoples of color by white peoples and nations of European continent for the purpose of maintaining and defending a system of wealth, power, and privilege. Now remember, this was a Bible study, or at least proposed to be a Bible study.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I know you said Freed Hardman's thing was harder to find, and I'm a Freed alum, so I'm not trying to dog them or anything. But
I'm not either.
Isn't it interesting that they called their thing bridges?
Oh yeah.
I mean, are they pulling from any of this at all? That's what
when you come in with an ideology that there's a divide, when you start there, then bridge is a natural word that you can use to describe what you're attempting to do.
But they're not pulling from any of Be the Bridge,
no.
Are they? Okay.
Well, not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge.
Not to my knowledge. So, and then this last piece, if you go down to right there, kind of down to the first paragraph, it says, we must abandon our white Jesus and our white Savior complex if we want to recognize and embrace the true Savior and receive forgiveness and healing from those on the margins. This is our calling as white bridge builders to model the subversion of our American Christian power structures and to call others to do the same. I had more. Let's really quick. Can you reconcile privilege that is unearned? And what do I mean by unearned? You didn't earn it.
Yeah.
Is there any way to reconcile that? Physically possible?
You have to decenter your whiteness.
Is that like this? The answer is no. It's physically not possible, and it's certainly not scriptural. It's not how Scripture teaches things, but it's not even possible to do such a thing. And when you're thinking about it from something that you didn't earn, you can't, are you supposed to go feel bad the rest of your life? The answer there is yes. The Christian answer is no. If you're privileged, you have a responsibility to others. And it is, if you get that, you are responsible, and that's how you can atone your, privilege in whatever that is. So, okay, we're over time again. I keep doing that. So sorry about that. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.